got Tyrese thinking he's a part of the MCU when everyone on the planet knows that this movie is like the bastard stepchild of the Marvel universe, where they're just not going to acknowledge it. They've Morbius. Okay, so I want to start off this review by apologizing to Marvel because I've been thinking that their movies were super mediocre lately. But the problem is they were mediocre, but they weren't bad. They were just mediocre. They were just movies that I'm like, yep, this wasn't anything special. You maybe had one or two action scenes, but you know what? Overall, I felt like you tried, but you know, I felt like you kind of missed the mark a little bit on getting a really, really good movie. But it was mediocre. They weren't bad. They were like, it was like a C. Most of the movies that are coming out, like Shang-Chi, was anything super special. It was like a C movie. That's the thing that you can feel from those movies. They're trying to do something that they haven't done before. The thing is, this movie wasn't like that at all. This movie felt like a box office fuck up. It's like the studios were like, hey, we have this character. We don't really have much going on. We have a basic generic plot. We're gonna just throw an actor who's semi-notable, Jared Leto, and plus I think he's part of a band or something like that. Throw him in this movie. We also need something for the black audience, so let's get Tyrese in. Let's get Tyrese in this movie. How did they get Tyrese in this movie, man? How did they get this man to do this movie? They must have like finessed him, because they got Tyrese thinking he's a part of the MCU when everyone on the planet knows that this movie is like the bastard stepchild of the Marvel universe, where they're just not going to acknowledge it. They've convinced this man that he is a part of the MCU, man. He's running around telling people out loud, like, Tyrese, calm down, bro. You are not a part of the MCU like that, bro. You don't realize that you are a subsidiary. You are a contractor. You are separate from what's really going on. And he was talking about he had meetings with some higher ups people. I think in an interview he said he spoke to Bob Iger, an extremely important person. I think he's like CEO of Disney actually, but I haven't checked. And he must have given him so many promises or something, because he did this movie and it kind of ruins your chances of being in the MCU. I mean, not really, but if he wanted to be a prominent character, like he probably could have. I mean, I don't know what direction they're gonna go in with the Luke Cage, but he could have been a Luke Cage. One more thing, Tyrese got pranked. Yeah, he saw a review that Martin Scorsese said that this movie was good, and I'm like, nah, bruh. I don't even think Tyrese seen the movie, or he's seen a different cut. He must have seen a different cut of the movie, because like he's going around like his character is so prominent, and he's talking about it like he's gonna be, and he signed a 3-picture deal. He signed a 3-picture deal of this movie. How did they get him to do that? Whoever did that, they finessed the hell out of this man. They did that. They really finessed him, because this movie is not no damn 3-picture deal type movie. This is basically a one-off, man. And I actually, this is the first movie I hope doesn't make money. Like, it's the only, because you need to learn your lesson. I hope it doesn't make money. So I'm gonna talk about the movie a little bit. I'm not gonna talk about the plot. The plot is literally like fucking 5 sentences. It's like Morbius is a doctor. He's sick. He creates blood transfusions with vampire bats. He injects himself, and then he attacks a bunch of people, and then his best friend finds out that he is cured for their disease. He takes the serum, best friend becomes bad, and Morbius kills him, and that's it. And then they kind of set up something else a little bit. They also set up a little bit for their own, is the Sony universe. It's going to be the Sony Spider-Man universe. It's not part of the MCU, because they have a little spat at the end where the Vulture comes in. He's transported to the Morbius or Venom universe, and it doesn't make any sense. It's not interesting. It falls flat on its face, because you also kind of remember that Vulture did not build the Vulture wings. It was the Tinkerer built it in the Spider-Man movies. He didn't build them. So how would he know how to build another one? Because there wouldn't be unless you know there's another Tinkerer. Plus, it was kind of acknowledged that the technology in the MCU is way more advanced than it is in any other universe so far. But you know what? I digress. Let's just keep it moving. The problem with the movie is that it's like nothing. It's like a nothing movie. I mean, the action scenes, you can tell they were tamed because they're trying to keep that PG-13 rating. And sometimes there's certain things in the plot, in the story that kind of didn't make any sense. Like, there's a situation where Morbius is on the ship and he's experimenting on himself and he gets the serum to, turn into bats or whatever. He becomes Batman. And there's this woman that's on the ship with him, and she gets hit like in the head by a man with a gun, and she is knocked out for days. Like, she's unconscious for days. I think at least a day or two, and it looks like she has cancer the next time we see her. I'm like, she's like in bad shape. I'm like, geez, how hard did she get hit in the head? But I will say this: you can tell when the movie becomes really bad. Like, as I'm watching it, I'm like, this movie does not deserve as of watching it, it's like a 16% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm like, this movie doesn't deserve that. Why are the critics bashing this movie like that? It's not that bad. But literally at specific point, there's a turning point in the movie, and it's right after he gets his powers where you go, oh, that's why. You can kind of see it, but even then, it's still kind of low. It's still kind of too low. 16% is pretty rough. And I personally think that this movie is around the same level as the Venom movies, but the difference is the Venom movies have something entertaining about it. You have the combination of him talking to Venom and Tom Hardy interacting with each other. That's probably the fun parts. Like, you can Google those parts, and they'll still make you chuckle a little bit. They're not great dialogue, but it's just fun to see Tom Hardy interacting with himself. There's nothing interesting in this movie. I think it would have been better if they did dive into the horror aspects of the movie, but they didn't want to do that because it's really difficult to make a PG-13 horror movie like this. Like, this is a vampire PG-13 horror movie. It's very difficult to make it work. Usually whenever they have PG-13 vampire movie, it's based on something else. It has different lore, like it's based on a love or a romance or something like that. But this is based on horror and him turning into a monster. They should have just committed to that, but they just didn't want to do it. I do want to talk about the villain for a second. So the villain, he becomes kind of evil after he becomes a vampire. And it's kind of hinted at that he may have been like bullied, or oppressed or something like that as a kid. And that's why he's decided to take the route of doing this, right? He is bullied by everyone. That includes Morbius. He literally gets to, I don't know if it's like an orphanage or like a doctor. It's like a doctor's place. And him and Morbius are sitting right next to each other. And he introduces himself. He's like, hey, my name is Lucien. Nice to meet you. And Morbius is like, no, your name is Milo now. And he's like, wait, what? No. My name is Lucien. No. Your name is Milo. My name is Michael. Your name is Milo. Because the last kid who was here, his name was Milo and he died. And I'm like, huh? And he's like, and then the next kid after you, his name is going to be Milo number 2. And he's going to die. I'm like, what is going? I was like, damn, you damn right. This is a villain origin story. Morbius is a dick as a kid, but somehow they become friends. There is actually one more part that I just want to talk about. It's really stupid, where they're both basically paraplegic. They can barely walk. And Morbius goes to visit his so-called best friend that he's decided to change his name of. And he kept his name Milo, by the way. Throughout, like, as an adult, he calls himself Milo. And even at the end, he was like, oh, you remember you gave me my name. I'm Milo now. I'm like, what the fuck? No, you were abused by this guy. And then he was like, he goes to visit his friend, and he was just like, yeah, man, I need your help. And he's like, I think we should go for a walk. And I'm like, bro, both of y'all are paraplegic. Walking is not really in your best interest. And they're just hobbling throughout New York. This is not like any, of course it's New York. Of course it's New York. Because they're just hobbling away. And I'm like, man, you're an asshole for suggesting y'all go for a walk. Y'all couldn't have this whole conversation in the house. Like, this entire conversation could have been held in the house, but whatever. And man, bad. And then the female love interest, but she's not a female love interest. I don't know her name. I think I think the actress name is it's Adria and Jonah. She's gorgeous, man. She's beautiful. The thing is, she is not his love interest in the movie. Like, if they took her out, the movie would have still been fine. In fact, it actually would have been better if it was both him and the other guy doing everything together, and then, because it's like they needed him to have another character to talk to. I guess that's probably why she was in there. But if it was just him and Morbius, and then they both discovered that they're vampires, and then Morbius goes a different route than he does. But at the same time, Milo spends his entire time trying to convince Morbius that being a vampire is really fun. But at the same time, he's really dumb, because he's causing too much of it, like, a problem. He's killing too many people. Like, that's the thing. He wasn't even like, but whatever. I guess the movie just needed the plot to move forward, and Morbius doesn't even consider trying to figure out a way to cure himself of the vampire disease. Or even, same thing for his friend. He doesn't try to cure them. He comes up with a venom. He comes up with the venom to kill them both. But of course, he only kills his friend. He doesn't kill himself. So he was kind of a hypocrite. But we're not gonna talk about it. His friend was whatever. But honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I can say that this movie was a solid. It was a solid F. It was a 50%. But yeah, man, this is it. This is it, man. I'm your boy Rant, and I'm out.